So this is a topic which is very, very close to my heart. I've been talking a lot about it for the past, goodness, 8 months. I think a lot of what you will hear today is a little bit of crystal ball gazing, because voice is a platform which is really up and coming. It's something which I think is developing and will develop and really strengthen over the next couple of years. We've got an amazing panel out here, and I think I'm really excited about the mix that we have. We've got two amazing marketers out here, and I think two amazing platform providers. So very good mix. And me as an agency, I'm kind of caught in the middle. So that's really a really exciting thing for me to do. So what I'm going to start off with is a little bit of my own personal thoughts in terms of where it's going, and then I'll just leave it to the panel here 2 minutes in terms of their thoughts on where voice is going. I'm a big believer in terms of how voice is going to shape up not only how we market, but as human beings, how we interact with things around us. Voice is going to drive a lot of what we do as we go into the future. It's very intuitive. It's very intrinsic to what we do. I mean, you talk and you converse. And I think now, and I'll of course get Google in, because one of the questions I'm going to ask is how intelligent has AI become, where it's become a conversational kind of a thing rather than just being, a one-way voice requests kind of thing. It's really changed over the past 6-8 months. So I think what's going to happen as we crystal ball into the future and as we are today, I feel that your screen time on your phones is going to reduce drastically or not. That's up to the next couple of years that's going to happen, because a lot of what you do on your phones right now today, you might replace that with voice. So voice searches are going through the roof as we speak across the world. I think the latest stat, I think in the US, was that more than 50% of searches are happening through voice now. In that kind of a scenario, what happens to advertisers who are spending a ton of money on search, and how do we prepare for this new world where people are going to search for voice? Right now, you have results which are goes into 100 pages, and you as a marketer are buying on the first, second, third page, where you are actually promoting your searches. What's going to happen when voice just gives you one result? That was the discussion we were having with Pankaj, that voice will just give you one result. That result could be in the form of a playback of audio. It could be a video that could be playing. So those are the kind of things that is there. I mean, imagine you're sitting in your car. You don't need to get onto your phone to really understand your location. You can just speak into it, and turn-by-turn navigation could be activated through voice. So that's the kind of ecosystem that we are getting into. And I will get into a little more detail, but I think that's a little bit of where we are right now. And as brands and marketers in this new ecosystem, which is up and coming, how can we take advantage of it? And as platform providers, what is it that they're enabling for brand and marketers to take advantage of what they're going to develop as we go into the future, is what the panel is going to discuss today. So we'll go one by one to all the panelists. They can introduce themselves and also speak a little bit on what they think their thoughts are on voice. I have some specific questions which I will ask after that. So I'll leave it to that, starting with Pankaj.
Hi guys. So Pankaj Parihar this side. I lead digital practice at Godrej Group. In my view, of course, voice, which is why we are discussing voice is critical, voice is important, and is going to be one of the game changer for users and marketers at the same time. But how much time it's going to take is what we need to discuss here. In my view, it is going to take a couple of years to reach a certain scale. As a marketer, again, we are working towards, at Godrej, we are working towards creating certain assets for few of our categories. It's been a few quarters we have started working on it. But we are trying to be future ready. It's not that we have seen scale and we are, just going to catch on to the scale. It's just we are trying to be future ready, and hence we are creating this space. The other point which I want to, discuss or talk about is that voice actually has two worlds, and most of us will agree to it. One is, of course, your smartphone users and smart speakers And then there is absolutely rural audience for whom voice is the main way of communication. You know, it's ease of communication, ease, convenience versus actually typing on your specific devices. So these are the few couple of points which I think that, you know, we as marketeers are looking, and we'll keep on developing on it. But yeah, we have partners who are, let's talk to them and let's figure out what they are up to and how they can help marketers like us.
Mohit?
Yeah, hi. My name is Mohit Kapoor. I work with Jio. So I think just to talk about voice as a technology, right? So it's come a long way. There's been more than 2 decades of work which has been happening here. So the error rates have come down dramatically, and it's more like a walk, crawl, walk, run and fly. And I think there's a world out there which is running on it, and I think in India is crawling at this point of time on this. From Jio's perspective, so we've of course want India to fly on the voice, and what we are doing is so we look at market in a very simple way. So we have now more than 300 million users. I think it's you know it publicly, where we have a portion of users who are smartphone users and a portion of users who are JioPhone users, which is the feature which is a smart feature phone of ours. So we have we have a voice assistant in the feature phone, and we're seeing some amazing stuff which is going on. And we also have we actually gone to a next level of voice, which is video bots on the smartphone side. We run it on an app called MyJio. We're actually going further there from there. So we are doing fiber to home, and we're going to be leading on the smart home piece. So we believe voice is even going to be even more important in the homes and in the offices. So every product of ours actually has a voice assistant in it, and we want to go even further from there, wherein we're going to get into commerce. We are going to be working with a lot of retail outlets across India. So we believe that voice, the further journey from voice search, there are multiple things, but finally I think the main application would be voice commerce. So imagine, and we have to see, right? So we have to be very pragmatic that what is naturally happening. What is naturally happening is people are picking up their phone and saying, "Bhaiya, hame ek Synthol ka packet bhijwa dijiye," or let me think of all Godrej products quickly. And can we capture that? And can we create enough AI and drive it, etc. So I think as Jio we are deeply invested. I think we'll talk more about it, but yeah, what I want to say is that I think Jio is invested in all possible ways in the voice technology per se. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Arpan, and I lead the digital practice for Reliance Mutual Fund. And of course, the moment we talk about mutual funds, there's only 4% of people in this country has invested in mutual funds. So the biggest thing that we have as a mission and a motto as an industry is to uncomplicate, right? And how do you get these people, how do you get Indian consumers, especially from tier 2, 3, 4 cities, coming across digitally and typing in the complicated mutual funds requirement? It doesn't happen. So for us, voice and making it simple is the biggest roadmap ahead. Also happy to say that we are probably one of the first organizations in India and APAC who have launched conversational commerce, where conversation has allowed for financial transactions happening from your bank to your mutual fund. The road ahead for us is big, and we are also going to be a part of an ecosystem which is going to develop on the voice front, right? So what happens right now? If you need to go to tier 2, 3, and 4 cities with voice, you need vernacular, right? And you need platforms to have their NLP up and running so that people can adapt to the voice commands that people give and things happen. So I agree with my fellow panelists over here. It's going to take 2-3 years. But definitely as an industry, as an organization, overall as Indian economy, voice is going to play a much bigger role. There's also a term that we use which is pre-Jio and post-Jio, right? So what happened post-Jio is everyone has has managed to get hold of a smartphone, and people are downloading stuff. You know, there are like gigabytes, or if there's any other term for bytes, you know, zettabytes, right? Which is getting downloaded and stuff. So people really want to avail of experiences, but they don't have the ability or the capability at this point of time to type and write the right thing. So I think voice is the way. Voice is going to be the way.
Hi everyone, my name is Charu Joshi. I work with Google. And again, I think my fellow panelists have captured this, but I think fundamentally Google believes very strongly in voice, stemming from the fact that there's nothing more human than speaking. Language is, or writing is 5,000 years old, speaking language is 100,000 years old. So obviously that happens naturally, comes very naturally to human being. The thing that I think as a company that we are putting a lot of focus upon, that voice solves for two basic premise of, engaging with digital or interacting with digital. I think first fundamentally is accessibility, which a lot of people spoke about. So you don't need to speak, you don't need to type anymore, which used to be a challenge for a certain portion of audience. You can just speak to your device or your phone or a smart speaker and information comes to you. I think the second problem that we see it solving is language and literacy. You don't have to be knowing a specific language or speaking in English in the right or wrong way. And both these problems get solved by us as a technology company through a lot of machine learning, a lot of AI, and a lot of natural NLP technology that we have. So if you think of us creating technology for setting up an alarm on a phone, there's probably two or three, or mainly one way to do it. When you change that to voice, there are over 5,000 different ways to set up an alarm, or 5,000 different ways that people ask the system to talk about setting up alarm. So even from accessibility point of view, and no matter what language I say that in, technology takes care of both of these. And one thing that fundamentally I've been with long enough in Google to say that, I've seen that despite rural, urban, India, US, we users should get more credit than what we give them at the moment. So we believe as brands or technology platform provider that yes, it's nascent, yes, it come to us, but look at what Jio did to every strata of society using digital in some shape or form. We also believe voice will unfold that, because voice solves so many problems, and that's why we're expecting this to be like the next transformative technology or paradigm shift in the way people engage with information at the moment.
Awesome. I think a lot of us are agreeing sometimes that's not good for a panel. But just one clarification out here for those who are uninitiated, I don't believe any of us are here. NLP is natural language processing. So that is an extremely important part of where AI is going to back up where voice is going. So when we talk about voice, a majority of that is basically AI backing voice, and that's where I think the important change has happened. So when Mohit was referring to 20 years of evolution, earlier it used to be very difficult for NLP or for someone's voice to be recognized, then converted to text, and then someone to understand the AI to understand that, and I think it's come a long way. And I'll come to Charu, because I know a lot of what Google is doing in that space, of course, and what Jio is doing. But I think first I would like to start off with the marketers. So I think both of them have spoken a little bit in terms of where the marketing is and where they are as marketers. And I believe a lot of them are in the process of creating assets to take advantage of a voice, like you would with your websites, like you would with your app. You are going to create voice assets which can take advantage of that. My question to both of them is, yes, I mean, you guys have done that, and that's an ecosystem that you're creating. But what is the challenge that you're facing today as we speak, as of today, in terms of how can you take advantage of this medium? Are there any challenges, or are there any issues that you face today as we speak? And what is your wish list that you would want for that to be really overcome? So, to both the marketers, I think that's one of my questions that are there.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think more than a challenge, I think it's about how do we grasp the opportunity. As I mentioned, the wish list for voice at this point of time is 2-3 things. One is vernacular. Okay, so there is this language in India called Hinglish, and people talk on it. I'm sure on the Google bar, on the Google Assistant, and at some times it gets very difficult to understand, and the entire process fails. So as quickly as we can razor sharpen the NLP part, it's going to help. Vernacular definitely needs to come in, because that's where it's going to go to the bottom of the pyramid, tier 2, 3, 4. That's where you need voice more, right? That's one. Second is on voice technology experts, people who are going to create systems. I think there is talent available in India, but not in abundance. Right, so that's one area probably. I mean, I see Google partnering with a lot of organizations trying to create that forte, where marketeers can use them in the right sense. But it's just not. It's not a full room at this point of time where you walk in and you choose and pick and say, hey, you build this for me. So I believe these are the two immediate opportunities that we should start cracking on, and that's going to help build the voice journey. Third, since I'm from the financial sector, regulations, right? Regulators need to understand what is voice replacing, right? So when you talk to people, they say, but how do you understand voice recognition? I said, hey, it's not recognition. It's about clear commands. It's about diction, which is replacing commands on your device, right? So that ecosystem also needs to be simplified, and people need to understand what you're trying to build, so that regulation falls in place and things can move faster in this country.
So, well, Arpan has already covered vernacular aspect of it, so I'm not going to talk on that. The one piece which I'm going to pick, which he mentioned, is the availability of tech partners or people who can actually develop these assets on the fly, or are they available? So I tell you what, I mean, we started this project almost a year back. It took us few months to find a right partner, or a partner who could actually, develop this piece which we were expecting. So that is definitely one piece, which I don't know whether, partners like Google or Jio can help, but yeah, we need tech partners who are like really into this space. Number two, Shams and I were discussing there on, text search, you have PageRank 1, 2, 3, or, there are millions of them, yeah? And you actually optimize your content basis, you definitely want to be on 1, 2, 3. On voice search, it's going to be position 0, yeah? There is no 1, 2, 3. How do we ensure that we reach there, and how do we, partners like, Google and Jio, how do we ensure that, we are in position 2 is, position 1, position 0 is going to be the biggest challenge for marketer, because if I'm asking for a query, there is only one answer. I'm not, as a user, I'm not choosing out of whatever options are available on this thing. So that's number 2. And third piece, which I think, which we have faced a lot, is the voice UX and UI. As of now, we are only into screen UX and UI. I don't know how it's going to shape up. That's the bigger challenge for marketers like us. So these are the 3 challenges or opportunities which I'm throwing on the, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome one side of the story, because as marketers, and I'm kind of caught in between as an agency. So my job is to make sure that both of these meet, and especially from a client's perspective, I need to get these answers out. So one, before we move on, people who are entrepreneurs out here, as Pankaj said, that where are those developers? I think both of them were talking about the ecosystem that is being developed out there. I think the next 3 years will be very much about who can take advantage of this and create technologies which can reside on a Jio or on a Google, and really get marketers to take advantage of that. So that's one big point that is there. The other point that I wanted to add from my side was that, yes, right now we are in the asset creation stage. When can we actually get into marketing? When can I actually take advantage of...
With scale.
With scale, correct.
Yeah.
With scale, will that happen? Is it happening? Are there any thoughts? It might not be happening today because we're still not there. But are there thoughts, and again, these are for both, for Google and Jio, and very much the answer could be, it's still we still are developing it. But are there thoughts in terms of how can we leverage? So when we've spoken so much about vernacular, for example, it has huge potential to reach media dark areas because Jio, for example, the Jio phones reach to the smallest towns and cities where all of the consumption is happening on your phones and not necessarily, and as a marketer, so for example, in Godrej, when you want to sell soaps, you would want to reach out to them. How am I going to be able to reach out to them using voice at scale? And that's another, I think, again, crystal ball gazing as to what can happen in the future. So I would like to throw it to platforms out here.
I'll probably start with this. I think for everybody's quick understanding, I just want to take 2 minutes and talk about voice in general. So
before Mohit goes ahead, we're all expecting again Jio to revolutionize. As he said, we're going to make India fly. I think that's always Jio is always in your leader.
That's credibility at risk, but yeah.
Let us all learn how to fly.
But broadly speaking, when we talk about voice, we're talking about the voice assistants in the phone. That's one. Second, we're talking about the voice assistant which is there in your smart speakers, and that's what is that's what you understand as voice at this point of time. As we go forward, it's going to be the voice you're going to use to actually ask your microwave to warm or hot something, and when you get to office, you ask a product to find a specific file or do some specific action, etc. Right? And when you're dealing with products without a screen, so it's a large space. That's the first thing I want to say. And after understanding this, we need to actually then see across the world what's happening, right? And we got to learn a lot from China. So China today has about 60 million smart speakers and about 470 million broadband users. About 13-14% of people have started using. US are probably 50% plus homes using all of this. Now what happens? So once you have this infra getting developed, and how potentially how India could fly is, but if you look more keenly what's happening in China, that which are the applications people are using the most, and we learn that the biggest application being used for voice is actually the Mandarin to English or English to Mandarin. And if we say Mandarin to English, it is 3x faster, and it is 50-60% lesser error-free compared to typing, right? And when you're doing English to Mandarin, it's even better. And if you see, Mandarin is not a language which is the right language to be on the screen, right? So it's better to do it. The voice is the natural thing. We come down to India, we have many more languages. Google has done about 30 odd languages, Indian languages on the assistant. So the first set of people you're going to impact are people who are going to require this language assistance, right? And so there is scale there. And I think the second thing which is going to happen is, I'm again coming back to the point that we have to see, so there has to be a clear, human insight of voice which can, to be used. We don't have to create a voice product or a voice marketing program because it's a good thing to have, but there has to be a clear business case, around it. And so are there any business cases, I won't take much of time, I'll pass it on to Charu. But so what at least few business cases we think of are very simple business cases. Again, on the commerce side, when people actually, one thing, picking up their phone, I'm repeating what I'm saying, have to make an order for grocery, right? And can that be done better? Can there be AI? Instead of picking up the phone, you actually talk into a device and which calculates the price, the discount, and things go even better that, the system starts to recommend back that you forgot to pick up the Surf Excel, for example, etc. So, language translations, commerce, and I think from the marketing side, the only thing I will say is that you have to go deeper and figure out, okay, what are people actually speaking into the speakers or series and etc. And you'll figure out it's very fragmented. Maybe about 20% would be largely who, what, where, how, etc. You can't do anything with those things. But if you see keenly, you'll find some searches on recipe, some searches on new, etc., where you can insert product recommendations, and you have a marketing story there, etc. So I think it's about, but India should fly on this, not for the reason, not for anything else, but because there is a clear need, and because we are, how it is, right? So it's been, a bulk of our population is uses feature phones or require the language assistance. So yeah, so that, I think that's from me, and over to Charu.
Yeah, I agree. I think two things that I'd like to add to that. I think one, fundamentally, in India, vernacular or the dual language that we do, I think systems will become smarter. They already process, like a lot of smart speakers already process both language. So at my home, if I speak in English and my help speaks in Hindi, or I speak in English, Hindi, both, I will see the system become smarter enough and start processing it for dual languages. From brand perspective, I have two thoughts. I think one, already a bunch of brands have started using voice very tactically. They pick up on a use case. For example, Flipkart did this, I remember, during their Big Billion sale. And they say, even if it's a sale, Indian consumers love haggling, so they build a bot around saying how much this laptop is for. There's a conversational action. They'll say 1,000 rupees, and you'll haggle back and forth. I think to Pankaj's point, it's still not scalable. It's something they use tactically. I think Royal Enfield did something around. Home Center does something around. If you speak to Google and say, okay, Google, talk to Home Center, and they start showing you collections and selections. So there's this tactical use happening. I think long term, I feel, if you look at most of the voice queries, right, especially in the rural sector, it's very utility driven. A lady somewhere in a village might not say, I want to buy Surf Excel, or I want to buy Ariel or Nirma powder, but she'd be like, how do I remove haldi ke daag from my boy's shirt, right? Haldi ke daag kaise nikale? And then at that moment, if a brand is able to harness that micro moment or whatever moment of context, saying haldi ke naag nikale with a product, and then she's like, nahi, or I believe in herbal solutions, ya bahut mehenga hai, and then conversation restarts saying ki isme neem or nimbu ki power hai, so on and so forth. So these moments, as I think the more data we start processing, the more I think long term we think about that where in consumer journey we can step in and become, just from an information giving opportunity, a utility driven opportunity. I think that is when the technology will take the next shape or form. I think another example I give, that currently a lot of speakers allow for your geysers to be turned on as soon as you wake up. So you say, okay, turn on the geyser, and that happens. But in a couple of years' time, or even very soon, right, my phone knows at what time I wake up, which days I wake up, which days I'm in Delhi or in Bombay, and what is my heart rate that day, because there's another technology that I'm interfacing with, what is the temperature. And imagine if, based on my alarm, the system starts becoming smarter, and then brands can figure out where and how they need to plug utilities in between. Is something which will be interesting to see unfold. I think it's happening in a very small fragment right now, but it has a lot of, I think it has a lot of promise for brands, because we've seen even simple changes like, how's the weather today? Like, systems know I'm sitting in Bombay and I'm sitting indoors, so what the weather is, or what's playing tonight. It just, systems have become so smart that they know where I am, what my passions are, what would I be interested in playing. Is it sports, is it movies, or is it music? And that is where I think brands have to find their unique moments and try to fit in for users.
So picking up from Mohit and Charu, because they spoke about moment marketing and fitting in the brand absolutely at the opportune moment. So I'm not going to dwell much about the product which we have developed, because it'll take a couple of months for us to launch it, not the product as in the platform and asset. But we have a category which is a mosquito repellent, mosquito killing category. It's a multi-thousand crore category for us, yeah. So we are not, so it's the product which is actually talking on the space of vector-borne diseases, yeah. So anything to do on vector-borne diseases, whether it is dengue, whether it is malaria, whether it is chikungunya, or anything related to that, is what we are trying to own. We are not trying to say that, it's going to be, use this or use that. But whenever there are searches rising, or whenever there is a scare or epidemic on dengue, that's the space which we are trying to own, and which I think is the right way of looking at it.
So we've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to take 5 minutes with the panel to do some closing, and then I'll throw it open for another 5 minutes for you guys to ask any questions. So the last 5 minutes is a little bit of, we've anyways been crystal ball gazing, but a little further down the line. As marketers, as platform providers, where do you see the tipping point or the evolution where we really are going to get to scale for voice? Because whatever we're speaking right now is all going to happen in the future. We all believe that voice, and that's why we're here on this panel to really talk about voice. I think that's very clear. But where do you see and how do you see that happening is a question that is there to the future for the panelists that is there. And then we can wrap it up from there. Anyone? Charu, you want to start? Charu, you've been always last. So Charu, why don't you start first?
So again, I think if we're really crystal ball gazing, I think a couple of things is the inception happened from typing, swiping, texting, and it's moved to context. And I speak a lot about context because I think that fundamentally changes how voice conversations happen. I think if we really are looking to future, I think two things stand out for us. One is definitely the one sense, like right now currently with voice, we are using like speaking sense, talking to a certain device and getting information and getting stuff done. The combination of all senses, if you can touch, see, type simultaneously across multiple devices is when this power of technology will totally manifest. So if I say what are the ingredients for this recipe, to I say, okay, show it on my TV, to say, okay, let's move this to kitchen and it starts cooking in the microwave automatically, that is where it's solving a user problem without any friction. I think the second point is also around emotional tonality, which is something we are still starting to see it. So if I say, oh my God, to voice, and if I say, oh my God, they know the day I'm tired and the day I'm excited. And I think more or more of that from technology's perspective will start getting ingested in different sort of speakers and assistants that we interact with. I think from brand perspective and marketers perspective, I think a lot of intelligence building has to happen. Some brands might have to take a little bit of risk and take a leap of faith and do it, fail, and then learn. But I think that's why even as Google, we try to empower as many developers as possible because this has to get scaled out. This has to be put into mainstream media because from users' perspective, they will adopt faster because their smartness to technology has always taken us for a surprise. And I believe in voice, it would continue to happen. And that's my, 2 cents in this.
Okay, so I'm going to say something which might sound too much of a crystal, but bear with me, right? So I think voice is going to replace quite a few apps, right? Right now, all the apps are fighting for your mobile phone space, right? It's full, and you don't want them 24/7. In fact, you have anti-apps which tell you that you've not used this app, so delete it. Install me. So the app war is on, and I think beyond barriers, voice is going to come in and say, play Rafi Saab for me, right? Or heat my dinner, or invest or withdraw 5,000 rupees from my bank and send it over to my, stockbroker. So that's how seamless 360 it's going to be, and probably the doctors are going to give you a pat on your back and say, good, you're not using your mobile phone too much, right? Because you're speaking. What's also important along with voice, we forget hearing, right? So there are a lot of times we don't know what's going on in the space till the time there is an SMS alert, which we now hear. But the voice is probably going to tell you, the gold markets are down today, best time to buy. Just say okay, and the transaction is done. Or reserve your restaurant seat today at 8 p.m. because it's at a 40% off. Just say okay, I will do the next. And maybe it's the American Express concierge which has turned into your voice. So I believe the voice ecosystem is just going to be a part of your day-to-day activity. It's just going to be, it's just going to be like the way we are not excited about mobile phones anymore, right? It's just going to be a part, it's just going to be like that. And I think that's important for the ecosystem to be absolutely, where we can say it's matured and it's a way of digital life. So that's what I feel is the future.
So actually, so we come from a slightly different, not so different, but slightly different thought process actually. So we don't believe in crystal gazing or thinking about future. I think we more believe in creating future. So and it's kind of important, and we literally mean it actually. So so what is it? In fact, this is a great platform, and the MMA is a great platform as well. How the marketing fraternity all together can come together and actually move things faster. And so today, if you see what's happening is there would be less than 50 websites in the country today, or maybe good part of the world, which are actually voice ready, that you can actually. So it's a simple thing to do, but it can happen rapidly. There are whole lot of pilots which can get started, etc. I think on this platform, I'll just say, I think we could we should get there faster, because there is need, because the bottom of the pyramid guys, they're wanting to use voice primarily to interact with the internet, or to collect data, to learn, to all that. So I think we have to build that infra for them, and we should attempt to do it as fast as possible. And even on the IoT side of things, because there is, the underlying infra is now available. There is 520 million broadband customers. That actually 400 phones have 520 million this thing, and broadband will start to grow very rapidly. Jio is coming with fiber to home. So all the infra is getting ready. So I think the applications at the top should move fast.
I think these guys have covered most of it. Genuinely, I mean, I don't know what to add here, but yeah, I'm gonna bet big on the second world of voice, which is the tier 2, tier 3, or rural side of voice. I mean, urban side, we know that marketeers will somehow or the other, we know how to crack it. But the rural side is the main piece which we would want to absolutely crack, and that's where the game changer will be.
I think that's amazing in terms of where I wanted this conversation to go, because I think, and just wrapping it up very quickly, vernacular, I think everyone is very gung-ho about it. That's something which I feel that because of language, and I think I completely agree, it's going to unlock the potential of what India is all about. Voice, I believe, is going to unlock the potential of what India is all about, because that's very natural for us to go into the future. I also believe that as India does with a lot of other things, it's going to leapfrog, and the adoption of this is going to happen much more quickly than a lot of people believe that it's going to happen. We as marketers need to be ready, and I think I was having conversations around that, saying that that's what it's all about. We don't know when that switch is going to happen. That switch could happen 8 months, 18 months, 20 months down the line. It is going to happen. But we need to be ready. We need to be ready for that switch, because it's a very empowering thing that voice is doing today in India. And I think sitting out here with the help of everyone in the marketing fraternity, I think it's our responsibility to be able to kind of give it and back to society, and try to take advantage of this movement. So that's really a little bit of what this panel was all about. So thank you for the panel. It's an amazing discussion that we've had, and thank you all for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.